So go ahead and let's move on to slide number 6 in that presentation and talk about some of the success stories of churches that have gone before and have actually completed Faith in Action. And if you look at the next several slides, there are a number of success stories and quotes from those churches. I want to start with a church called Sanctuary, and it's on slide number 6. This was a unique situation. It was actually a pretty small church at the time, just 55 people. And some key things that came out of that church: they were in a turnaround situation. Their church had actually been declining in people coming and attending, and a new pastor came in and wanted to turn around that church and begin to grow and have a different identity. And they chose Faith in Action to help do that. And some key things happened there. Number one, they added 7 people to this church just out of Faith in Action. And the reasons they gave were really great. And what they said to the pastor is that they not only were a part of Faith in Action, but they became members of the church because they said, this is the kind of church I want to be a part of. For what you're doing and the way that that church came across, they brought in 7 members to a church of only 55. And then a couple other key things: they so transformed their congregation and made them so aware of serving others that 9 new ministries came out of their experience in Faith in Action. And then the final interesting story was Sanctuary sent out a direct mail piece. They sent out a postcard inviting their community to come participate. And one gentleman called them up and asked for the pastor and said to him, I received your invitation, and unfortunately on that day I'm not able to come and participate, but I so believe in what you're doing, I want to help support you financially, and so I'm sending you a check for $500. That was just a great story that came out of that one church. Then if you look at some of the other slides, there's a story there from Calvary Community Church up in Washington. They're in the Seattle area, and something unique happened during the timing that they did Faith in Action. Just as they were about to do their Faith in Action Sunday, it flooded. There was so much rain in Seattle that it flooded an area. It wiped out a trailer park. It did a lot of damage to people's homes. And so what Calvary Community Church did is they changed their plans. And they said, even though we've planned these service projects, we want to go out and respond to that flood, because people have lost homes, their material possessions have been damaged, and we want to go out and help and serve. And so they did that. They actually showed up at a trailer park, and there's a great story about the manager of the trailer park who lived there as well, who had just lost his home and his possessions were buried in mud, and he was standing out just surveying the trailer park, really in despair. You know, what was he going to do? How was he going to help the people that he was managing in that trailer park? And there were members of Calvary Community Church with Faith in Action that just showed up that morning. And they were there and just informed him, we're here to help, we're here to dig you out. And so they dug out the mud in that trailer park and helped them recover some of their possessions. And in addition to that, they cared for them. When he was interviewed later, what he said was, they came and they dug out pictures and they talked to us and said, hey, who's in the picture? You know, and I'm sorry about the flood, and is this your family? And they explained to them that why they were there to help, and that they cared for them, and they were there being the church because they loved God. So just a great story. And one other one that stands out to me is a church that adopted a low-income family that had, I believe it was a trailer home, and they were struggling so much financially. They were not able to really care for that home, didn't have the money to upgrade it, to maintain it. And so the church came in both with money and time and helped them help them fix up their home. And that the other thing that they did is people cared so much about that program and about serving others and about this couple that so much money got donated that not only did they do maintenance on the home, but enough money had come in, they actually bought the title to that home and gave it to the couple. So those are some of the key stories and the examples of service projects that have gone on with Faith in Action. I hope that gives you some ideas and some inspiration. And as we go through this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about how to get ideas and guidelines for service projects that fit with your church, fit with your congregation, and that you're able to continue forward as you complete the program and keep a heart for service down the road and in the future for your church. So let's talk about how do you implement Faith in Action as a church-wide campaign. A lot of times when we talk to pastors and church leaders about church-wide campaigns, the impression that comes up is that's expensive and that's complicated, and what do I really need to have to do that? So I want to walk through some of those practical, what do you need to have in order to be successful with Faith in Action. I had a great conversation a little over a year ago at the National Outreach Convention when we introduced Faith in Action. And the conversation was this, as a gentleman was talking to me, and as I described Faith in Action to him, he said, you know what, that concept has been around for a while, but I really like what you've done, because what you've done is take the concept of serving the community and having the congregation participate in that, and you have really wrapped that up into a bundle and a package program that's easy to implement at any church, regardless of denomination or size. So how do you get started, and what is the easiest way to implement this and be successful? The way that you get started is with the Faith in Action Campaign Kit. And if you take a look at slide number 11, that's going to give you some details on what's included in that kit. It really comes with everything that you need as a church leader, as a pastor, to implement this program on a church-wide level. Number one, it has a campaign planning guide. And the key thing about that is it gives you the instructions from start to finish on how do you plan this? How much time do I need? What materials do I need? How do I invite people? And that has a great section in there to give you ideas on the types of service projects that are available. What have other churches done? What are some of the things that you need to think through when you pick those service projects? That's included. And then remember the aspects of a church-wide campaign. Every one of those is covered in the campaign kit. So sermons and worship services, what's in the kit are all of the sermons. There are 4 weeks worth of sermons. There are also even tips on music and things that you can do in your worship service to convey those messages each week. The other things that are included are everything that you need, samples of small group curriculum, or if you have Sunday school classes instead, there are samples of everything that you need for the Sunday school classes or small group within your church. That's included in the kit as well. And then there's a sample t-shirt and some product samples for the communication materials that you're going to want to have to make this successful, to communicate to the congregation and to the community. So let's go ahead and go on to the next slide and look at what you need if you are going to implement this with your small groups or with the Sunday school class. So take a look at that slide. And here's what's included in the different kits. It's very simple. If you have, for each of the leaders that you have and for each of the groups that you have, you want a small group leader kit. And that includes these 3 items, and I'm going to explain each of these. So the first thing that you need is each one of your leaders is going to get this kit. And it has a DVD in it that has videos for 4 weeks worth of small group discussion. So they can just play the video and then switch over to the discussion questions that are included and walk their group through those topics. It also includes a leader's guide to just give them some tips about how to handle a small group and how to facilitate that conversation. And then they also have these materials here. And this is what you need for each participant in a small group. And there are 2 items. The first one is the participant guide, and that has the devotionals for each member of the small group. You can even use it for individual study. And then it also has discussion questions for each of the 4 weeks. So you watch the video, and then the leader just facilitates the conversation as they go through those questions. And then the really nice thing about this too is that you're going to get a copy of the Book of Luke out of the Faith in Action Study Bible available from World Vision in Zondervan. And the nice thing here is that each member gets this, and all of the lessons and all of the discussions are based on stories and parables and teachings out of Luke. So each member of the small group has that material available, and they can all follow along and study together. So those are the things that you need for a small group or for a Sunday school class.